This is new. It wasn't there before. Hello, Kari. How are you?
I'm very well.
Long time no see.
So good to see you.
It's so wonderful to meet again.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it amazing that you can, and this is one thing I really love about social media. Yeah. There's lots of things that I find very troublesome about social media, but the one thing is that you can reconnect with people so easily after so long, and it's, yeah.
Feels like yesterday.
Whenever I consider coming off Facebook, I think, no, because then I'll lose touch with all these wonderful people again.
Well, it's like everything. I mean, it depends on how you use it, right? What you do with it, kind of. Okay. Would you like to introduce yourself? You're a wonderful lady.
Okay. Well, my name is Kari Dixon, and I live in Edinburgh. And we met each other about 25 years ago when I was living in Norway.
Yes.
And I moved back to Edinburgh just at the start of this century, which makes it sound very grand. And I work as a literary translator.
Yes. And you are like, you are massive. You are like, wow. Yes, you are. I'm in awe. It's incredible.
It's a funny business. I was just talking to a colleague just now who was saying how he works from French, which is obviously a much bigger language than Norwegian. And it's a very, it's not somewhere you get fast necessarily. So it's taken me 20 years to get to this point. But I finally feel like I'm established, perhaps.
You are.
Maybe. No, but you still always think, am I going to get work? When's the next book going to come?
Yes, this is the problem with self-employed, right? People and translators in particular, there's no certainty about anything. I think that makes us extra creative.
But well, it does, but you also learn, I've really learned to, at a much higher level than my day-to-day, if you like, I've learned to trust that things will come in, because over the years, things have worked out.
Yes.
I might get nervous about, what am I going to do? How am I going to pay my bills? Or is the work going to come in? Am I ever going to get work again? So of course you have those moments, but in a way, it's always happened. Yes. The work has always come.
Yes.
And interestingly, just in March, I think it was, I was finishing off a project and I had no work, and I'd applied to do a paid PhD because I really wanted to do the work that they were asking, rather than getting the PhD. And I didn't get an interview, and I wasn't that bothered. But the same day or the same week, I got work for a year.
Wow.
So it's like, from not knowing what was going to happen, I had work for the year.
Yeah, so we go from, am I going to get work, to, am I going to meet the deadline? And then we cannot enjoy the rest because you don't know what's coming. And then when it comes, it's too late.
But then maybe you learn to enjoy the moment by moment instead.
Yes, you do, because it's wonderful work. How many books have you translated? You work from Norwegian to English mostly, right?
I work from Norwegian to English. I did for a while do Swedish as well, but what was and that was a lot of crime writing. And what was happening at that time was I was getting more and more Swedish and less Norwegian.
Yeah.
And Swedish is a third language for me, so it's not my strongest. So I kind of extricated myself, and I now just focus on Norwegian.
Yes,
because it's so much easier, and I get twice as much done. And it's because it's my mother is Norwegian. I've grown up with Norwegian. I know the culture. I know so it's a lot easier. And I have to say, during this past year, I have been so grateful that this weird, this slightly niche profession is mine, because it's not that's one part of my life that has not been particularly affected. I've had work the whole way through. I've never expected to earn shed loads of money. So I haven't lost anything in that front, if you see what I mean.
Sure.
All the other stuff, you know, but, I've been able to work right the way through.
But for a translator, life hasn't changed that much, because we already worked in a system where you eat yourself with your typewriter or your computer now, and your dictionaries, and you do like paper dictionaries like me, the heavy ones that you like to open and explore, right?
I still haven't quite got around to throwing this away. I don't know if you can see that, but my constant companion. Constant companion for 30 odd years.
And do you think it has changed, that there are more and more Norwegian authors being translated into English, and people discovering the culture, or it's just a steady flow? Because I don't know a lot about Norwegian literature.
Well, no, I think there's an organization called NOLA, which is Norwegian Literature Abroad, and they're kind of they get money from the government to promote. So they're in they're not a government organization, but they're given grants, and their job is to promote Norwegian literature abroad, and they have been fantastic.
Fantastic.
So they've done what started off. Well, I suppose Norwegian literature has always been translated, but then we had the Nordic noir crime, the crime writing wave, which I think for English speakers and for the UK, who are notoriously not good at, you know, subtitling and, you know, things like that, they like, but that has kind of somehow opened people's minds to translation and to foreign films, and in a very different way, I would say. And NOLA have been fantastic at kind of guiding their promotion of Norwegian literature, so that more literature is being translated now than ever before. And I think it was 2 years ago, Norwegian was the third most translated language or something. Wow. So for a small language, it is.
There you go. So that was my feeling, but only based on everything I see you post.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, like it's buzzing.
Yeah, no, it really is. And they were the guest of honor at the Frankfurt Book Fair last year. Oh, no, 2019, so the year before COVID. Yeah. And they did this phenomenal program. And obviously it helps that Norway has money. And I see this in relation to my other literary colleague.
Sure.
So they provide a translation grant, they do a lot of promotion, they do a lot of seminars, they invite publishers over to Norway, reviewers. So that obviously makes a difference.
Yes, I think
they're very good at using.
Yeah. We have a little bit of interference, but I think it's going to be sorted by the time it gets processed into the video that I upload. Okay. But I didn't quite catch what you learned.
I think I was just saying that obviously I think the fact that Norway has the money or chooses to invest the money, and they're a rich country, obviously makes a difference. But what I'm constantly impressed by is that they use it wisely, and they really use it to, and as a result, they have this amazing record of translation. And over the years that I've been translating now, I think the number of translators from Norwegian has doubled, if not tripled, from Norwegian into English. Sorry.
And have you told me how many books you translated? Do you know?
Oh, if I include children's books, probably about 20, 30.
Wow, that's a lot for a literary translator.
I haven't ever counted, to be honest. I haven't actually counted.
Do you have copies of every book you've translated? I hope you do.
Not every. There's a few in America for an American publisher that I don't have.
Okay.
I'll have to go away and count it, and then I can email you and let you know.
Not that important anyway.
That awful.
Yeah. No, it's all right. I mean, every single book is a baby, and you focus 100% on that, and then the next one comes, I suppose. Yeah. And Kari, I've been seeing your wonderful adventures.
There's a wonderful.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say there's a fantastic Norwegian to Dutch translator called Paula Stevens.
Oh.
And she has translated more books than her height. Or, she's. I'm not there yet.
No. Leg height, maybe. Leg height.
Aiming, yeah. Aiming for
hips. No, what I wanted to say is I've seen your wonderful pictures of all the wonderful activities you've been doing, including raising money for good causes and all these walks and all these wonderful pictures. So I wanted to ask you how you've experienced, because you had two things, right? This last 15 months, we'll say we had COVID and we also had Brexit. So it's like two kinds of viruses of it. To put it mildly.
The last few years in Britain have not been great. And it's all compounded. And this month has just been rain. So the desire to move to another country can be very strong at times. I think working as well, two things. Working as a translator with an like we were saying earlier, with an international outlook. Brexit has been devastating. I'm working with festivals, so things like musicians, writers that they can't get visas to come to Britain. It's kind of, and yet Britain's always been cool Britannia. This kind of that there was such an enormous cultural wealth, and it's just being depleted by this stupid decision that we don't want foreigners in our country, which is just anyway. And that's one thing. But on the other hand, I'm fortunate in that I have this massive network of international friends, colleagues, or organizations. And because of lockdown, because everything has gone online, there has been even greater access to that world from my sitting room, sort of thing. And it was interesting. I was just at a meeting earlier today for the Translators Association. And there's an organization here called there is the British Centre for Literary Translation, which is based at the University of East Anglia. And they were saying that in a way, this access to the world, it has become really important to keep that access to the world. So
I think so.
We kind of think maybe it's not so much a British translation centre, it's actually a world translation centre. And there are world translation centres all over. And so certainly while our charming government decide not to let people onto our shores, we can travel in space and time through computers. And I think it's really important that we keep those networks. And I think also as Buddhists, we have friends all over the world.
Yes, we do.
And it's to really cherish that and to nurture and keep hold of those things when our country is, it's nothing like Belarus, for example. That poor guy who's just been arrested. So we're not that but it feels very odd to have your wings clipped.
Yes, and I think we're trying to counter all that with keeping our bonds of friendship alive, but also with these waves of dialogues campaign, Dialogue for Hope, and that we're all people practicing Buddhism in Europe. We are meeting on the 6th of June online for this.
That's going to be astonishing.
Massive way. It's amazing. And the other day, I think it was, who was I talking to? I don't remember. Yes, Faith. And she was asking, are you training yourself to sing the Ode to Joy? No, I said we had a national activity, so I was focusing on that because I was in the translators team. But now I tried, it's in German. I cannot pronounce it, but it brings me so much joy that I go like in karaoke. Are you preparing to sing in German?
I know, I learned it at school
in
German.
You're lucky.
So I can't remember all the words, but wir betreten Feuer.
But there's this website, 6thjune.eu.
Yeah.
And in there's like karaoke.
Karaoke, ping pong, ping pong.
Still, I find it very difficult. So, but I think this idea that we're all meeting for dialogue and for dialogues for hope, I think it's fundamental in our time. And you were saying this is how Brexit has affected work, and how has COVID affected you personally, or how do you see it affecting us all?
Well, I'll repeat myself a bit because we were talking before you started recording.
Before recording,
yeah, I think this, one of the things that I find astonishing and cheering in a way, if you can call it that, is that the whole world is in this situation. Everyone alive at this moment. We can meet anyone at any time in the world and say, how did you feel? You know, so we have a starting point with everyone in the world, which is phenomenal. And I've really learned to see that hope is a choice, because obviously you go up and down, and none of us have been prepared for this. None of us have been prepared for this. So lots of people, when the first lockdown happened here, lots of people going, oh, but it's all right for you because you're used to working from home. And it's like, yes, that part of my life is fine. But then I used every evening to go to classes, to go out and see people, to have my social interaction. And that's gone. And I live on my own. And after about, I don't know, 2-3 months, I was going, I was so restless. And then this concept of skin hunger was something that I'd never heard about, which is being touched, quite simply being touched physically by people.
Oh, wow.
Feeling people's skin. And it's, you know, and that just bumping into people in shops or meeting a friend and giving them a hug and all those little interactions that we think nothing of before. And yet here we were avoiding people on the streets, you know, making wide, you know, to keep out people's way. And for the first time ever in a crisis, whereas people have normally come together in a crisis, we weren't able to.
Yes.
So I think no one knew how they were going to react. And everyone was getting, you know, they're not doing this, or it was such a weird situation.
Yeah, so it wasn't the same, like just you work from home, but you didn't have the social context or general situation, because we were also afraid. We didn't know what was going on. So I don't think...
Sorry, you're breaking up a wee bit.
Yeah, it's being tough, but anyway.
Very similar. So it was really about working hard to make time every day valuable.
Yes.
And to see the value in what was happening, how to deal with it.
And you were saying that
and I started phoning people, and I started sending random flowers to people as a way of, because I discovered this thing called postbox flowers. So you can get flowers in a postbox and they send it, and then it says your flowers are sleeping, and you put them in and they blossom. And I just started doing that to someone who came into my head. I would send them flowers and
Oh, how wonderful. Because you were saying, yeah, hope is a choice. It is a decision. And so nobody's denying how, how can we say, how terrible the circumstances were, and the feeling and this sense of powerlessness, I think, somehow. But then what do you do with it is what counts, I think.
Yeah.
What you do with it.
And for example, one of my little things that I did, which I to counteract my own frustration, was that when we were in lockdown and we weren't allowed to go beyond the city boundaries, I thought, okay, I'm going to walk the city boundary. So I walked and cycled around Edinburgh, and I followed them on a map. I followed the city boundary.
Pictures were just amazing. I was checking Facebook every day to see what you had published, because it was such a sense of adventure that you were giving us as well.
No, it was, and I discovered parts of Edinburgh that I would never have gone to otherwise, and how everything fits together, and the little bump on the horizon that I see out my front window is actually the city boundary. I discovered there's a hill, and I went there, and yeah. So that's, in a way, that's the way I try to use the limits to create hope.
Yes.
Or it's just one way that I've done it. I know a lot of people have started swimming in the sea because that was an option, and so I think everyone has to find their own.
I saw a picture of you doing that for charity, correct? Together with a friend? Something like getting in cold waters or something like that?
Oh, I don't think I've done any charity stuff, but I have done it before. Oh, yes, it was a friend of mine who was raising money.
Uh-huh.
She has a charity for children with learning difficulties, and it's called Mindrum, and it was 21 years old, and so she swam every day for 21 days. And I went to join her on one of them, and it was apparently the best day out of all that she'd had weather-wise. So I was very, very fortunate.
Or maybe you brought that with you.
Yeah. We had a great time. But yeah, so it wasn't me actually earning, doing the money for that. But
yeah,
again,
right, money she was, but you supported you shared the project. Yeah.
I love things like that. Having these ideas and being able to use. I suppose it's the way that my creativity is thinking up little schemes like this. And I've, how 7 hills, or, we sometimes say chant 5 hours for 5 days, 7 hills for 7 days, boundary, because that's your limit. And just, trying to use as much of every possibility as you can.
And for me, there's been also this sense of feeling so grateful.
Yeah.
So grateful for, already for having a roof over my head, and for being able to adapt my working circumstances and be able to teach online. And yes, you can focus on what you're missing or lacking, or you can focus on feeling grateful for what you have. And that's also an attitude.
Zoom.
Yes.
Who'd heard of Zoom before?
Yeah.
And then through Buddhism, and I am so not a tech person.
Yes.
But with Buddhism, because we were forced to go on Zoom, I had to do Zoom. And I had to teach. I did a summer school translation summer course on Zoom for a week. And I had to learn to do all these breakout rooms. And then for the Buddhist summer course, I was suddenly the tech person.
I know.
Showing people how to do breakout rooms. It was like,
I got these. I know how to use them now. I know how to simultaneously translate online. It's just amazing.
Really?
Yes. Yes. So you get the people like when we're in the booth. So people talking to your into your ears and you talk into other people's ears the same way we do in the booth, but simultaneously while online. And it's just amazing. It's wonderful. Yeah, that you can, we can use our voices and our languages this way.
Yeah.
But I thought it was also during my lessons and during these kind of activities, not only for Buddhist activities, but also I did some, at one point, I would kind of create ballet evenings with my mom. I would pick her up. We were in the same bubble. And because culture is part of our lives and we couldn't do anything, this wonderful Scapino Ballet in Rotterdam, and they have wonderful, wonderful streaming possibilities now. So we sat down like we were at the theater. I used the big screen I have for the lessons, and sat down, had dinner, and watched ballet.
Oh, wow.
It was such a different experience. So yes, you get tired of Zoom, but you can experience it also in different ways and use what we said, right? The nice side of technology, I'll say, to keep people connected. And for me, it was a surprise that we could still create this heart-to-heart. Yeah. Even though there's a screen in between. So it's been fascinating.
And the other thing, I mean, when I did this, teaching, you'll know this from teaching as well. But when I did this summer course, the translation summer course, it was going to be a group of 10 people.
Yes.
And I was really worried. And it was the first time I was doing anything like that on screen, online. And I was really worried about the group dynamic and how that would work. Because actually, when I'm talking to you, we never look each other in the eye.
Exactly.
It's impossible. And only one person can talk at once. So what I call the corridor conversations, the little chats that you have with people when you go to lunch and how you get to know each other. They were not going to be there. And I was amazed at how you saw friendships blossoming, despite the fact no one was able to talk one-on-one. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, because I experienced the same.
and the kind of that there was a dynamic, there was, and the will to make things work has been extraordinary. And people
people pull together,
people's generosity and patience.
Yes. And the joy of seeing one another, like when, these massive meetings, because it's been such a long time that when nobody wants to leave and we're all like, oh, bye-bye. Like, I just stuck with it. I stayed watching faces, disappear because it was so nice. And then people would call, oh, Kari, oh, Cynthia. Because we haven't seen each other for 15 months. And for me it was as well this way to reconnect with nature, other than Zoom and the rest, that being able to go for walks, which but mine are shorter because I'm still recovering. But then I started making appointments with my friends once we got the first shot, or not, but with our face masks. And then instead of, talking on the phone or via screen, we started going for walks and walking together. And it's a different dynamic as well, because usually you're sitting around a table eating or having a drink or, and we are in movement now. We walk and talk.
That's one of my favorite ways of being with people is actually walking and talking.
It's fabulous. For me, it's new. For me, it's new because it's not the usual way I see my friends, but it's a different rhythm and a different pace.
I think that's it, the rhythm and pace, and I think that's one of the things that a lot of people have commented on, is that we've realized that we don't need to, like the pace of life that we were expecting ourselves to live before is not necessary. We still get everything done, we don't have to lead these frantic lives. And I think a lot of people coming back out of lockdown as we are now here, are kind of going, I don't know that I want to go back to that. So what is normal now? You know, that we have the time to walk with each other, that we have the time to...
We've come back to what's essential, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Has anything deep like that changed for you, like understanding even at a deeper level how you want to lead your life or what's important for you?
Yes. And this is a bit of a circuitous one, I think. And it's to do with, well, it's to do with everything that's been going on here in the UK, so with Brexit and all that, and on the bigger scale, I'll try and explain it, but I think there is so much injustice in the world.
Yes.
And that has become very clear in this situation. The injustices, like you were saying, grateful. I can't tell you how many times I've said, I'm so grateful to have a house, to have a job, and that I haven't lost my income, that, you know, things have just carried on. And that I'm in Edinburgh, of all, you know, this beautiful city with wonderful green spaces where I can walk and get out, you know. So there's that. And I tried to be an activist. This is going to sound really stupid, but I've tried to be an activist, and I find I fail miserably at being an activist every time. And so I've really thought long and hard and chanted a lot about what is my role, you know, how do I then work for justice? How do I then work to change these injustices? And for me, it's come back to Buddhism. That if I can help other people fulfill their potential, that's the way I can change the world. It might take a lot longer than shouting, you know, than being an activist for one cause. And I think that's where I got confused, that I can't. So what I've had to do actually over the past, this is just in the past few months, is that I've more or less come off social media for the moment, because everything was just clamoring.
Yes.
And I've been chanting a lot, and I've been trying to be a good person and be positive.
Yes, which I think is fabulous.
And to be in my space, in my community, with my friends, be present in the moment.
Yes.
And to create, to give hope that way, and then I will gradually widen again. But I do think we have a discussion meeting tomorrow where we're going to talk about personal and social prosperity. And I do think that if the individuals are happy or content and have what they need, then we don't need to have all this social injustice. And people give willingly, and they have the capacity to give, and there isn't jealousy, there isn't greed, there isn't. And I think people sometimes say you're an optimist or you're naive, but hey, I'd rather be that than pessimist. You know, if we weren't optimistic, if we didn't have ideals.
I think we have both feet on the ground here, Kari, and it's so deep what you're saying, because it's recognizing the dignity and the value of each individual life is the way to really promote deep and lasting change.
Yeah.
And
for everyone.
I think so too. So I've been trying to do the same, you know, in your place of work, in your community where you live, with your friends, be them, you know, next door or all over the world, is to promote this culture of dialogue and hope, which is also part of who we are. And I think it makes sense of what we've been going through in the last 15 months then, because then it has a purpose, then it serves, you know, an objective. It's not just destruction or death for that sake, but we can take this, you know, opportunity to create something of value, and there's nothing more valuable than human life.
but and there has been so many, there are so many positive aspects of what's happened, people looking after each other, the sense of community, the way grassroots have come up, people really questioning the necessity of stuff, you know, what we need, how we want to live, what kind of community we need. So I think I personally want to really encourage those changes.
Yes.
And if I do that, if the way to do that is by, you know, centering rather than, I don't know if I'm explaining myself, but it's a very profound.
Well, it's clear to me. I don't know if it's clear to friends watching. If it's not, they can write comments and then we'll record a second one. Well, I think the last point is about, you know, feeding this sense of hope and of profound values into youth, because they are the future. And so I've started, you know, I was telling you, I'm doing the talks, these conversations with friends in 4 languages. And now I've started talking with the younger generation. And so I posted one of the conversations in Dutch, and there's one upcoming in French with 2 of my students whom I've known for many, many years. Mm-hmm. And I told them I really want to hear, you know, the voice of youth and how you experience this, and to support them into believing that, you know, there's all this to build and they can contribute, and they are so aware of, you know, they are activists in their own way, because they are, you know, part of different associations, and they are very environmentally aware, and they want a better world. And it is our role to support that, I think, and to feed that hope.
Mm-hmm. No, and because one of the big discussions at the moment is diversity and inclusiveness. I was thinking the other day, so I roller coaster through how I'm feeling, and this was a kind of like, I can't keep up with it sometimes. Yeah. And I was going, oh. And it really struck me that one of the things about, I mean, obviously everyone's suffering mentally in this period. Everyone's going through crisis, however they're feeling it or expressing it. But for young people, the choices are even greater than when we were young, if you see what I mean. You know, there's, instead of having 2 brands, there's 50 brands. Instead of having 2 there's multiple of everything. And it's no wonder it's stressful. and yet this is all, I think there's two groups who lockdown has been particularly unkind to. And that is people just coming out of education, you know, people just getting their feet into adulthood. And the elderly. And very, so my mum's 91.
Yeah, the elderly. Yeah.
And it breaks my heart to think this might be,
but this is it,
our last experience, but you know.
This is the vital transmission. Don't get emotional.
Yeah. No, I'm not getting emotional about it, but it is
very important to cherish them while they're here. And this has also shown, I think, the importance first of the wisdom of the elderly, you know, and their social role, because in my eyes, as a generation has been sacrificed, and I cannot come to terms with that. Really, I cannot, and I'm going to do everything in my power for the people around me to feel that they are valued and important. And both will say both ends of this wonderful process that is life, you know, the elderly and the youth. And so this is where my focus is going to go, to my young students and to my young friends, for them to know that, you know, there are options, there are reasons to be hopeful. And yes, there's a lot of work.
Also, to build in that kind of the resilience that we're going to need going forward.
Yes, and this is training. This is good training.
Yeah, because it's really, if we say hope is choice. If you think about what you're 18, you didn't get your exams, everything you're teaching is online, it's unstable, you've no idea what's going to happen in the future, you don't, you know, all these things we've taken for granted. Now I'm talking very much from a Western privileged point of view. They're not there anymore. So for those people to generate that hope, it's really important that they learn that hope is a choice and that they can do whatever they want to do.
Yes.
And to really give them that courage and hope. Yeah.
So I'll say these are very wise words to close this one conversation, but maybe we'll come back to more.
Sorry, there's a fly there. I would love to.
Yes, me too. And so we need to send kisses and love to all our friends. They know who they are. And
whoever you are.
The two of them together, craziness again. It's like it takes us back 25 years back in time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for accepting.
Thank you for thank you. It's been lovely to talk and to
connect.
Be forced to think things through.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Love you, and I look forward to more.
Yes, coming.